2 days after my wedding, I opened my laptop expecting a sweet message from my parents. Instead, an invoice stared back at me, every flower, every chair, every plate of food listed like I was a stranger they'd hosted, not their daughter. The bold total at the bottom made my stomach drop $36,000. This was the same couple who handed my sister $400,000 as a wedding gift. Tom, my newlywed husband, froze beside me, asking Elena, "What is this?" I thought the bill was the betrayal. But the real shock didn't come until someone started pounding on my door. I grew up in a quiet suburb where every house looked picture perfect, from the outside, freshly trimmed lawns, holiday wreaths that matched the season's driveways lined with the same silver SUVs. My parents, Daniel and Marilyn Ward, fit that world perfectly. They were the kind of couple people admired at neighborhood barbecues, successful, composed, always smiling. If you didn't know us well, you'd think we were close, that we were normal. But behind closed doors, everything in our home revolved around my older sister, Lily Ward. She was 4 years ahead of me and seemed to shine in every room she entered. My parents adored her. They praised her grades, displayed her trophies, and bragged about her achievements to anyone who would listen. When Lily wanted a new phone, she got it the same week. When she wanted new clothes, Mom took her shopping. I was the kid who grew into hand-me-downs and learned how to make jeans last 3 school years. I started working at 16 not because anyone forced me to, but because I wanted things my parents weren't willing to spend on me. They called it building character. Back then, I believed them. The favoritism wasn't loud or cruel. It was subtle, quiet. A closed door here, a soft pat on Lily's shoulder there. When holidays rolled around, Lily chose the restaurant, the family activities, even the movies we watched. I learned how to blend in, how not to take up too much space. By the time I moved to the city for college and later became a software engineer, I had built my independence like armor, and for the most part, it worked. I carved out a life that felt steady, even if a part of me still wondered why the people who raised me never seemed to really see me. Then I met Tom Alvarez, now my husband. Tom came from a warm, grounded family who treated me with a kind of natural kindness I hadn't known growing up. His mother hugged me the first time we met. His father asked thoughtful questions about my work. His siblings joked with me like I'd always belonged. Tom saw the quiet parts of me too, the practiced calm, the habit of shrinking myself the way I brushed off small hurts. He didn't let them slide. He learned them. So when he proposed last year, it felt like the beginning of something gentle. My parents reacted with excitement that almost startled me. They asked about colors, venues, catering. They insisted without hesitation that they wanted to pay for the whole wedding. After giving Lily $400,000 for hers, the offer shouldn't have shocked me, but it did. Not because of the amount, but because of how earnest they sounded. It felt like the first time in my life they wanted to treat me the way they treated her. I let myself believe it, and that belief would cost me more than the invoice ever did. Our wedding day was small, warm, and exactly what Tom and I wanted. We held it in a quiet garden outside the city with string lights hanging low and soft music drifting between tables. My parents, Daniel and Marilyn, arrived early. They hugged me, complimented the venue, and insisted on paying the remaining balances with the same cheerful enthusiasm they'd shown for months. It wasn't extravagant like Lily's wedding had been. Hers had made the local society pages, but it felt intimate and honest. It felt like mine. During the reception, I caught my mother wiping her eyes as Tom and I danced. My father clapped Tom on the back, praising the vows he'd written. For a brief moment, I wondered if the years of distance between us were finally loosening. If this was what it felt like to be seen, to belong. I went to sleep that night believing something in my family had shifted in a way I'd never expected. 2 days later, that illusion shattered. I was still surrounded by half-opened gifts and stray ribbons when I sat down with my laptop. Tom was making coffee in the kitchen. I thought my parents might have sent a sweet note or maybe a picture they'd taken during the ceremony. The subject line "wedding payments" didn't worry me. If anything, I assumed it was a receipt they wanted me to keep for records, but when the email opened, the air in the apartment seemed to thin. It wasn't a receipt, it was an invoice. A full, itemized bill listing every detail of our wedding day. The floral arrangements each bouquet accounted for as payments, the appetizers, the rented chairs, even the string lights. Every line neatly typed, every cost tallied as if my wedding had been a corporate event they'd hosted on my behalf. The total at the bottom hit me like a blow, $36,000. For a long moment, I just stared. I didn't move. I didn't blink. It was like my brain refused to process what my eyes were reading. Tom walked over with 2 mugs, placed them on the table, and leaned in. "Hey, you okay?" His voice cut off the moment he saw the screen. "Elena, what is this?" "I don't know," I whispered. I don't understand." But I did. Deep down in the place that still remembered every forgotten birthday card, every hand-me-down, every moment I was told to be patient, because Lily needed something first, I understood exactly. This wasn't new. This was the same pattern dressed up in prettier clothes. My phone buzzed. A new message from my mother. "Hope you received the invoice. Please settle this soon. We agreed this was the responsible thing to do." Responsible. The word made something in my chest twist. My parents had offered to pay for the wedding. Insisted on it even. I never asked them for a cent. I never expected them to match the $400,000 they'd gifted Lily when she married. I wasn't keeping score. But this cold, calculated charge felt like they had set a trap and watched me walk straight into it. Tom paced, running a hand through his hair. "They can't be serious. Elena, this is insane." But my parents were always serious when it came to money, especially when it came to controlling who received it. I reread the email again and again, waiting for a sign it was a mistake. Some hint of sarcasm. A "just kidding." Anything. There was nothing. Just the bill. Just the blunt expectation. Just the realization that all the warmth from the wedding wasn't love, just performance. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the buildings outside our window, I sat at the table replaying old memories. Lily getting the newest phone while mine was taped at the edges. Lily receiving new clothes while mine came folded in a plastic bag labeled "Donate." Lily being handed $400,000 with a proud smile while I was now handed a bill. And for the first time in my life, I didn't swallow it down. I didn't tell myself I was overreacting. I didn't excuse it as a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message. And it was the turning point I didn't know I'd been waiting for. I didn't sleep the night the invoice arrived. Tom tried more than once to pull me into his arms and calm me, but my mind kept circling the same painful loop. The list, the tone, the expectation. All the years I had convinced myself things weren't as lopsided as they felt. By morning, something inside me had gone quiet. Not numb, just clear. If this was who my parents wanted to be, then I had to decide who I would be in response. Tom sat across from me at the kitchen table, worry all over his face. "What do you want to do? I'm going to pay it," I said. He blinked. "Elena, you don't owe them this." "I know." My voice was steadier than I felt. "But I'm paying it anyway. Not because I owe them, but because I'm done letting them use money as a leash." I pulled out my checkbook. Writing the full amount in neat letters felt strangely powerful. For the first time, I wasn't trying to bargain, explain, or earn their approval. I wasn't pretending the scales had ever been balanced. Tom squeezed my hand. "If you need me, I'm here." I nodded grateful and tucked the check into an envelope. But I didn't stop there. I wrote a letter measured honest, painfully straightforward. I told them how hurt I was, how their offer felt like a setup, how the invoice wasn't just a bill, but confirmation of a lifetime of favoritism and emotional manipulation. I wrote that I would never again accept money assistance or gifts with strings. I told them I was declining any future inheritance. And then I wrote the words I never thought I'd write. "This will be our final financial interaction." I sealed the envelope and mailed it before I could lose my resolve. For the rest of the day, my phone stayed silent. No calls from my mother Marilyn, no texts from my father Daniel. That silence should have been peaceful. Instead, it felt like a thunderstorm waiting to break. The storm hit the next morning. My phone lit up with messages from extended family, an aunt I hadn't spoken to in years, a couple of cousins who barely remembered my birthday, even a distant uncle who lived across the country. Every message said a variation of the same thing. How could you do this to your parents? They were trying to teach you responsibility. You're being dramatic. You should apologize. I stared at the screen, stunned by how fast the narrative had shifted. My parents had clearly been busy. Tom glared at my phone like he wished it would burst into flames. "Block them," he said. "All of them." I didn't yet. I needed to understand how far they were willing to go. Then an email arrived from an address I didn't recognize at first. A work account. It was from my mother. "Elena, the invoice wasn't real. It was a lesson. You weren't supposed to take it literally. We planned to surprise you with a $100,000 gift after you showed responsibility. Please don't overreact." I reread that paragraph 3 times. A lesson, a test, a promised gift dangled like a prize for obedience. Tom read over my shoulder and muttered, "Unbelievable." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my banking app and mobile deposited the check they had sent me months prior for wedding-related costs money I had never touched. I wanted it processed immediately so they wouldn't be able to tear it up and rewrite history. Their test was over. My answer was final. That evening, my phone buzzed again, this time with a number I recognized. It was my father's younger brother, Uncle Aaron, someone who had always lived on the edges of family gatherings. When I answered, his voice was calm but weighted. "Elena, I heard what's happening. I've been in your place before." And that was the moment everything sharpened into terrible clarity. My family had done this before. I wasn't the first, and unless I stopped it, I wouldn't be the last. I met Uncle Aaron the next afternoon at a small corner cafe near downtown. He was my father's younger brother, quieter, more observant, and someone who never seemed fully woven into the family fabric. I always sensed there was history there, something unspoken. Now, I finally knew why. He stirred his coffee slowly, eyes fixed on the swirl of cream. "Your grandparents did the same thing to me," he said. "They used money as a way to control everything. When I pushed back, they turned the whole family against me." I felt a chill slide down my spine. "So this isn't new. It's a pattern," he said, "and your parents learned it well." I sat back, letting the truth settle. It didn't make the situation less painful, but it made it clearer. I wasn't fighting one invoice. I was fighting decades of conditioning. When I left the cafe, I finally felt certain of what came next. 2 evenings later, right around sunset, I was in the bedroom folding laundry when a thunderous bang rattled the front door. Then another. Then another. "Elena!" a voice shrieked through the hallway. "Open this door right now!" Tom looked up from the couch, eyes wide. "Is that yes?" I said, my stomach tightening. "It's Lily." My older sister, once the golden girl of the family, the orbit around which everything spun, was now outside our apartment pounding the door with both fists. The hallway amplified every scream like a megaphone. I walked toward the foyer, each step steady, deliberate. Tom hovered behind me, protective, but letting me lead. When I reached the door, I didn't open it. I simply stood still and listened. "You're unbelievable, Elena," Lily shouted, voice cracking. "You paid the invoice. Why would you do that? Why would you embarrass Mom and Dad like that?" Embarrass. The word scraped something raw inside me. More fists slammed against the wood. "They were trying to help you. They gave you a chance to prove yourself and you turned it into some big drama." My hands curled at my sides, not from fear, but from clarity. This was exactly how Lily had been taught to think. Whatever she received was a gift. Whatever I received was conditional. Tom whispered, "Do you want me to call building security?" "Not yet," I murmured. "I want to hear her." Lily's voice rose again, now close enough that I could picture her leaning against the peephole, her breath fogging the metal. "Do you know how much they cried over you? Do you know how hard Mom tried to explain the lesson you were supposed to learn? If you weren't being so selfish, you'd understand." A neighbor cracked open their door down the hall. Another peeked from around the corner. Lily didn't notice. She was too consumed by her performance. I quietly lifted my phone and hit record. Lily kept going. And now the whole family is talking because of you. Everyone thinks you're ungrateful, honestly. I agree. I mean, come on, Elena, they offered to pay. You should have just accepted the invoice and shut up about it. Tom's jaw clenched. I laid a hand on his arm, grounding both of us. And cutting contact, Lily spat. Really? Over money? Over a stupid misunderstanding. God, you always have to make everything about you. The irony hit me so hard, I almost laughed. For 28 years, everything had been about her. Finally, I spoke not loudly, not with anger, but with the calm certainty of someone whose eyes had fully opened. You need to leave, Lily. Silence. Then, oh, so you are there. Open the door. No. Why not? Because you're not here to understand, I said evenly. You're here to reinforce the same pattern that's been hurting our family for generations. I could feel her confusion through the door. She wasn't used to me speaking plainly. Pattern. What are you even talking about? You don't want answers, I said. You want obedience. You want me to fall back in line and pretend the world has always revolved around you. I'm not doing that anymore. Her tone sharpened. Don't psychoanalyze me, Elena. I'm not the problem here, you are. No, I said softly. I'm just finally telling the truth out loud. She let out a high, desperate laugh. You're delusional. Mom and Dad were trying to teach you to be responsible. They were planning to gift you $100,000 afterward. You ruined everything. This isn't about money. Yes, it is. No, I said again, firmer now. It's about control. There was a long beat, just air trembling between us, then a choked sob. So what, you're done with all of us? With the whole family? Yes, I said, until something changes. A shaky breath sounded from the other side. Fine. If you want to throw your family away, go ahead. But don't come crawling back when you realize you're alone. I'm not alone, I said, turning to look at Tom. Not anymore. A few seconds later, her footsteps echoed down the hallway, fading with every stomp. A door slammed somewhere near the elevator. And then silence filled the apartment, cool and heavy, but somehow freeing. Tom wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. I'm proud of you, he whispered. My phone buzzed just as he said it. A new voicemail from my father Daniel. I pressed play. His voice was low, worn, nothing like the man who had always spoken with unshakable authority. Elena, I don't want to fight anymore. I think things have gone too far. If you're willing, I'd like to meet, just to talk. Tom met my eyes. Do you want to? I think I need to, I said. The next afternoon, I met my father at a cafe near the river. He looked older than I remembered, shoulders, slumped eyes, tired. On the table between us lay the check I'd mailed him. He slid it toward me. We don't want this, he said. Take it back. Slowly, I pushed it back across the table. No. He blinked. Elena, it's not about money anymore. And for the first time in my life, he had no answer. After that meeting with my father, something inside me settled, not happily, not painfully, just... Finally, the weight I'd carried since childhood loosened. Tom and I walked home through the late afternoon sun, and for the first time in weeks, my chest didn't feel tight. My parents stopped emailing. The extended family quieted too, maybe realizing their messages weren't reaching me anymore. The silence didn't feel threatening this time. It felt earned. Tom's family invited us over for dinner that weekend. His mother hugged me. His father saved me the last slice of pie, and for a moment I understood what family was supposed to feel like, steady, uncomplicated kind. I wasn't naive enough to believe everything was fixed, but I wasn't trapped in the old cycle anymore either. For the first time in my life, the future felt like mine. Looking back, the invoice wasn't the real betrayal, it was the reminder of how long I'd accepted crumbs and called it love. Setting boundaries didn't break my family, it finally broke the cycle. And if you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or expected to stay quiet to keep the peace, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments, tell me what part hit you hardest, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.